NASDAQ, the S&P, all of them hit record highs earlier this morning. President Trump meeting with members of the Senate Finance Committee today. They're talking, of course, tax reform. You heard her voice before. Now let me introduce you. Nan Hayworth, former New York congressman. All right, Nan. We've got Ron Johnson, Wisconsin, tilting the other way towards a yes. Rand Paul says he's a yes. Lisa Murkowski, Alaska, says yes.
Drill, baby, drill.
We're going to let her drill in ANWR, okay? It looks to me
revenues for Alaska
much more positive that we're going to get this thing done. You with me?
Absolutely, Stuart, and I've been with you. We do need desperately to get something done, and our major enemy really is the process of reconciliation in the Senate, because that is what sets up all of the pay-fors. You know, that's where the dynamics of tax reform get thwarted, because now they've got to make all these revenue streams balance out with the budget that they passed.
They're just tweaking, aren't they? Lisa Murkowski we get to drill in ANWR. She gets that, and she gets a yes.
Absolutely.
Ron Johnson gets more for small business, a bit less for big business.
Sure, and that's great. But we've still got the SALT deduction battle, you know, because now we've got to reconcile Senate considerations with House considerations. And there are lots of challenges still awaiting. I'm all for tax reform, and I'm praying they get it done.
You think we will?
I do.
Okay. I want to talk about sexual harassment on the allegations on Capitol Hill. Al Franken, John Conyers, they refused, both of them, they're not stepping down.
Right.
Listen to what Franken said over the weekend. Roll tape.
Have you talked about seriously resigning? Have you considered that?
No. The Ethics Committee is looking into all this, and I will cooperate fully with it. But listen, I know I have a lot of work to do to regain the trust of people I've let down.
All right, Nan, should Al Franken step down?
Based on what we have so far, I don't think there's a compelling reason to ask him to step down. I would definitely have him step down for a lot of other reasons. There's a photograph of him from his previous life doing something that was very unsavory and was not funny. Beyond that, what we have are accusations that are countered by his different interpretation. Very difficult, Stuart, as you know, in these cases. The accused are also at risk, and we don't want to support false accusations either.
Well, the law should take care of it, and or the voters should take care of it. You with me on this?
Yes, absolutely. No,
but I mean, we are in a new era.
Yes,
I mean,
we
the
are.
relationship between men and women in the workplace has really shifted dramatically.
Yes.
I'd say in the last 3 or 4 weeks, for heaven's sake. It's a new, you call it a new era of scrutiny? Explain that.
Well, I think, Stuart, we have, there is vulnerability, as we just talked about, on both sides of this. You're vulnerable if you're a person who might be accused of harassment, whether you're a man or a woman. It could run either way. And, of course, you're vulnerable to being abused if you're in certain situations. So I think everybody is going to be more circumspect. I'm hopeful that there will be significant tact exerted that we haven't seen before. And I think we're going to have to watch that there's going to be a lot of liability and process that we're going to have to deal with from now on.
Tact in this political environment?
Wouldn't it be nice, Stuart?
Wouldn't it be
You
nice?
set the example here every day.
I do
Intelligence and tact.
I'm going to break away for something really important. Look at this. This is, check it out, please, First Lady Melania, welcoming children and students from Joint Base Andrews to view the White House 2017 holiday decorations. She will participate in arts and crafts projects with the youngsters in various rooms throughout the White House. That is going on right now in our nation's capital. Melania, First Lady. Now this. The Supreme Court will take up a case that could have really serious implications for your cell phone privacy. The court's going to have to decide whether authorities need a warrant to search your cell phone location records. Judge Napolitano is here. First of all, Judge, lay out the case as it's before the Supreme Court.
It's a simple bank robbery case in which the police were able to demonstrate to a prosecutor and then to a jury that the bank robbers had cased these banks and had spent all kinds of time around the banks, which they denied robbing. The jury believed the records, and they were convicted. And now the conviction is being appealed on the grounds that the police didn't get a warrant to use the cell phone records. So when you have this, I'm holding up my iPhone. Even when you think it's off, it's not off. And if you put it on the front seat of your car, it records every place that the car has driven it. And the police acquired that from the telephone company without a search warrant and used that in the prosecution of these bank robbers. Did they rob the bank? Yes. Should they be convicted? Of course. Should they go to jail? Yes. But due process has to be followed. What's the due process? The Fourth Amendment says warrants can only issue on the basis of probable cause. No searches and seizures without warrants. Is this a search and seizure when the police get these records of you without a judicial warrant? That's what the Supreme Court will have to decide.
And your answer is yes, it is an unauthorized search and seizure.
My answer is yes because of previous similar cases. Example, where the police surreptitiously put a GPS device under the fender of a car. Before we had this telephone technology, the GPS device allowed them to follow the car. The Supreme Court says you can't do it. When the police used a heat-seeking device outside a home that was growing marijuana in the basement, the Supreme Court said you can't do it. I predict the same thing will happen now. Not because the Supreme Court wants guilty people to go free, but because it wants our rights to be upheld under the Constitution and wants the police to follow the law like the rest of us.
And besides, if it's relatively easy to get a search warrant,
let me tell you how
just
easy.
do it.
Let me tell you how easy it was in this case. The police had so much evidence on these guys before they gilded the lily with the cell phone. If they had come to me and asked me to sign a search warrant, I would have signed it.
Even you.
You know that there was plenty of evidence there.
The gold standard of constitutional privacy, right here.
I will take that.
Stay there, Judge, for 1 second. I want to turn back to you, Nan.
Yes,
Nan, I want you to listen to the CEO of J.P. Morgan, Jamie Dimon. Here's what he said. He says he bets that President Trump will not be re-elected. Dimon made the comment at an event in Chicago. He said the Democrats need to come up with a reasonable candidate rather than a left-wing one, although Politico is reporting that Bernie Sanders is making moves to run again in 2020. Bottom line is, comment please, Jamie Dimon, the most famous banker in America, he says Trump's not going to get a second term.
I don't know why he would say that, because President Trump is the only one who is actually actively fighting to increase the prosperity of Jamie Dimon's clients, because from the executive branch, the president has already initiated what basically is a juggernaut in behalf of enterprise. That's why we're seeing that 3% bump in our that's why we're seeing that bump in our GDP, because he has initiated the regulatory reforms that now are awaiting the infusion of capital from tax reform to create jobs.
The president wants to change Dodd-Frank, which hurts the banks, which hurts his bank.
Absolutely.
And he's going to get us tax reform, which will grow the economy maybe 3.5%, 4% next year.
I heard it personally from
reasoning?
Mr. Dimon that he had problems with Dodd-Frank, and he was right about that when I was in the House a few years ago. Look, every dollar that flows into the marketplace is a better, more productive dollar than any dollar that goes to government.
You know what? Jamie Dimon
is a corporatist, unfortunately, and he enjoys a lot of power from his position very cozily within the government and private spheres. He's got that juxtaposition.
All the big banks are corporatists.
Yes, I would agree.
Without that printing machine in Washington called the Federal Reserve.
And I'm in no way, precisely, and I'm in no way denigrating his gifts, but I would expect him to be a lot smarter and be foursquare behind this president and what he is doing, because he is the bulwark.
He's a smart banker, but he's not a political prognosticator, because he said
he's a Democrat.
By the way, we were up 70 points moments ago, a few minutes ago. Now we're up 3.
What happened?
Because of the conversation we just had?
No, I didn't think we did that.
Yeah.
But I do want to alert you to this. The Meredith Corporation has agreed to buy magazine publisher Time, $2.8 billion. Meredith is the owner of what? Better Homes and Gardens, a lot of other magazines too. The conservative Koch brothers, they put $650